from Los Angeles. It's Thursday, April 22, 2021. We have updates from our correspondents across North America. Rani Bayuga in Perrysburg reports about protests erupting in Ohio after a black teenager was killed by police as Columbus mayor asks for calm and patience. Anna Cui in Las Vegas, Nevada.
Clark County, Nevada finalizes plans to safely reopen.
Carla Valdez in Union Township reports about Governor Murphy announcing New Jersey Transit's completion of its full locomotive engineer roster. We have several reports from California tonight. Annabelle de Mesa in Glendale.
The city of Los Angeles launches initiatives to boost the tourism industry heavily impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic.
Pearl Mariano Rogacion in North Hills.
Los Angeles Mayor Eric Garcetti releases the most progressive spending plan in the city's history.
Myleen Cusho in North Hills.
Dodger Stadium to offer fully vaccinated section for patrons.
For business news, Bobby Soriano tells us about markets moving lower after a report on capital gains tax increase and today's earnings recap. Susan Husk in Dallas shares with us some ideas on how to celebrate Earth Day 2021 from home. You know, because we are celebrating National Earth Day, tonight's roundtable is about how we can help in our own little way in preserving the planet. Our coverage begins now. Mother Nature is not waiting. This is what United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres says at a virtual climate summit convened by the White House, urging world leaders to move ahead together to overcome climate change and our war on nature. Take a look.
Mother Nature is not waiting. The past decade was the hottest on record. Dangerous greenhouse gases are at levels not seen in 3 million years. Global temperature has already risen 1.2 degrees Celsius, racing boards must take action. First, by building a global coalition for net zero emissions by mid-century, every country, every region, every city, every company, and every industry. Let us now mobilize political leadership to move ahead together to overcome climate change, end our war on nature, and build lives of dignity and prosperity for all. And I thank you.
President Joe Biden today sharply ramps up U.S. ambitions on slashing greenhouse gas emissions, leading Japan and Canada in raising commitments at a summit whose promises bring the world closer to limiting the worst climate change. Putting the United States back at the forefront on climate, Biden tells a virtual Earth Day summit that the world's largest economy will cut emissions blamed for climate change by 50 to 52% by 2030 compared with 2005 levels. Biden tells the opening of a two-day summit of 40 leaders, including the presidents of rivals China and Russia, the cost of inaction keeps mounting. The United States isn't waiting. He says we have to step up. We have to take action, all of us.
This is a moral imperative, an economic imperative, a moment of peril, but also a moment of extraordinary possibilities. Time is short, but I believe we can do this, and I believe that we will do this.
But quickly raised questions on whether the United States can carry out its promises if another climate skeptic president is elected in the future. Combined with announcements expected by other leaders, the White House says that nations accounting for more than half the world's economy have now committed to action to keep the planet's temperature within 1.5 degrees Celsius or 2.7 Fahrenheit above pre-industrial times, the level scientists say is needed to avoid the most severe effects of climate change. U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris says economic growth and combating climate change can go hand in hand in her opening remarks at the Global Climate Summit called by President Joe Biden. Harris tells world leaders we must recognize the importance, of course, of justice in the work we do.
Here, we believe tackling climate change, improving communities, and creating jobs can occur simultaneously. And we must recognize the importance, of course, of justice in the work that we do. The communities hardest hit by climate change are the same communities harmed by wealth and gender inequality, toxic air pollution, and so much more. This truth holds around the world. So I urge all of us to focus on these communities, including indigenous communities, and consider their insight and experience in our efforts moving forward. They are critical leaders in this.
Meanwhile, protests erupt in Columbus, Ohio, after a black teenager was fatally shot by police yesterday. State and city officials are calling for peace and calm. In Perrysburg, Eagle News correspondent Ronnie Bayuga reports.
Thank you, Alan. Ohio State students marched through the campus today and ended in the Ohio Union Building, where they held a 16-minute vigil. Demonstrators also took to the streets last night through downtown Columbus. Mayor of Columbus, Andrew Glinter, tweeted, "It is a tragic day in the city of Columbus. It is a horrible and heartbreaking situation." Today, Derek Chauvin, former Minneapolis police officer, was found guilty of second-degree unintentional murder, third-degree murder, and second-degree manslaughter. We now have another case where the public and the police are again at odds. The following body cam footage was made available, showing an active assault taking place as the police arrived. The police responded to a 911 call of a stabbing, according to Chief Deputy Jim Gilbert of Franklin County. Micaiah, as shown in the body cam footage, charged at another girl while swinging a knife. The officer shot Micaiah to prevent the stabbing. Mayor Andrew Glinter also tweeted, "As they do with all CPD-involved shootings, we will share information that we can as soon as it becomes available. I'm asking for residents to remain calm and allow the Bureau of Criminal Investigations to gather the facts." This incident happened after just last week, the mayor met with Columbus Police Department to discuss change to address deadly interactions between police and black men. Perrysburg, Ohio, Ronnie Bayuga, Eagle News. We live in interesting times.
A call for calm in Ohio. Thank you, Ronnie, for that report. Now for COVID news. Oxygen cylinders are supplied to a Mumbai hospital, and signs outside a vaccination center read, "Covishield out of stock," as India posts a global one-day record of almost 315,000 new COVID infections. Hospitals in New Delhi sent out desperate warnings that patients could die without fresh oxygen supplies. India's long underfunded health system is being stretched to the limit by a devastating second wave blamed on a double mutant variant and super spreader mass gatherings. Health Ministry data on Thursday showed 314,835 new infections in the past 24 hours, the most of any country since the pandemic began, taking total cases to 15.9 million, the world's second highest. There were 2,074 fatalities, bringing the total death toll to almost 185,000. The number of deaths and cases in India are, however, considerably lower on a per capita basis than many other countries. Major private and government-run hospitals in New Delhi have sent out urgent appeals to the central government, calling for immediate supplies of oxygen for hundreds of patients on ventilator support. On Wednesday, nearly 500 tons of oxygen was supplied to Delhi, but this fell short of the required 700 tons per day. The megacity's government, run by a different party to Prime Minister Narendra Modi's national administration, has accused neighboring states governed by Modi's BJP of holding up supplies. Late Wednesday, the Delhi High Court ordered the government to ensure safe passage of oxygen supplies from factories to hospitals across India.
I'm feeling really helpless. Because being a pharmacist, my duty is to fulfill the demands of the customer. When I'm not able to fulfill the demands, so there's no use of coming to the pharmacy. I'm feeling really helpless. People are trying, they're asking for medication, and I'm saying no, no, and no.
Meanwhile, Mexican Deputy Health Secretary Hugo Lopez-Gatell confirms the discovery of fake COVID vaccines on sale in Mexico. He says this clinic was found selling what were supposed to be Pfizer vaccines at exorbitant prices of up to 40,000 to 50,000 pesos. Take a look.
Se trató de una casa clandestina, una especie de clínica que había sido divulgada a través de distintos medios de internet. Se encontró esa clínica, se vendía lo que se suponía eran vacunas de Pfizer en unas cantidades desorbitadas, hasta 40,000, 50,000 pesos estaba pidiendo por la vacuna.
Back in Washington, President Joe Biden on Wednesday hails his government's stunning achievement in administering 200 million COVID-19 vaccine shots across the United States ahead of schedule. Biden said the landmark had been reached a week before he hits his administration's 100-day mark, the deadline he'd announced for meeting the 200 million doses challenge. Take a look.
When tomorrow's vaccine and vaccination numbers come out, it will show that today we did it. Today we hit 200 million shots and the 92nd day in office. 200 million shots in 100 days, in under 100 days, actually. It's an incredible achievement for the nation. The time is now to open up a new phase of this historic vaccination effort. To put it simply, if you've been waiting for your turn, wait no longer. As of Monday, in my direction, with the support of 50 governors, Democrats and Republicans alike, everyone over the age of 16 will be eligible to get vaccinated. The first 3 months of our vaccination program focused on targeting vaccines to specific high-risk groups. Now our objective is to reach everyone over the age of 16 in America.
For today's COVID-19 numbers, according to the Coronavirus Resource Center of Johns Hopkins University and Medicine, as of 6 p.m. Eastern Time, Thursday, April 22, 2021, the number of cases of COVID-19 reported worldwide is now over 143,996,000. Top three on the list of countries with recorded cases are the U.S. at over 31.8 million, India at over 15.9 million, Brazil at over 14.1 million. To date, more than 3,061,000 have succumbed to this virus. The U.S. leads the countries with the most number of COVID-19 related deaths with over 569,000. Brazil is next with more than 381,000, and Mexico has more than 213,000. When we come back, updates from Nevada, New Jersey, and California. This is Eagle News America. Stay with us.
Events happen around us all the time, in our community, in our country, around the world. Events that affect people, move communities, or simply inspire us. Interesting events that people need to know. In these interesting times, we continue to be a competent partner in delivering news about these events. Fast, accurate, balanced. Eagle News, because we live in interesting times.
You're watching Eagle News America. I'm Alan Basolyahe in Los Angeles. In Clark County, Nevada, plans for a full safe reopening have been finalized. Bureau Chief Anna Cui tells us details about this development. Anna.
Yes, thank you, Alan. I just want to be clear, the state of Nevada remains under an emergency as declared by the governor. However, Nevada's Roadmap to Recovery Transition Plan, which provides the governor's plan not only to reduce current statewide COVID-19 mitigation measures, but also transition them to the local authorities starting May 1. So the Clark County Mitigation and Enforcement Plan was approved on April 20 by county commissioners, increases capacity restrictions for public gatherings to 80% from 50% occupancy starting May 1, and reduces social distance requirements from 6 to 3 feet. How about that, Alan? This, however, it doesn't apply across the board, and I'll highlight some of the areas here in a little bit. Capacity and social distancing requirements will be removed according to the plan when 60% of the eligible populations receives at least one dose of a COVID-19 vaccine, but mask mandate will continue to be in effect statewide. Now today, let's talk about numbers. About 44% of the eligible population of 1.83 million here in Clark County, those are at least 16 years old and older, has received at least one vaccination shot. So to reach the 60% threshold, about 1,097,000 people locally would need to get at least one shot. So that leaves about 293,000 more people to be vaccinated. Per state officials, they project that 75% of the eligible population here in Clark County will be reached by August or September 2021. Now, before I break down the plan, I want to go over some of the COVID-19 numbers as presented today by state officials during their weekly meeting. Hospitalization, it's stable at 348, although it is slightly increased compared to the last 14 days when it was in the low to mid 200s. But, they really don't anticipate ever seeing the number of hospitalization to go back to critical numbers, Alan, or even close to it because of the vaccination rate in our elderly population. 60% of those 50 years and older have been fully vaccinated, 68% in those 60 years and older, and 70% in those 70 years and older population. Number of new daily cases is back up to 271. Positivity rate is also back up to 5.8 compared to 4.1 about 2-3 weeks ago. But even with these increasing numbers, state officials say there's really no cause for alarm. It's reasonable to see them as we increase capacity to 50% last month. And now, with 80% starting May 1, I'm sure that, they say that we're going to see an increase in the number. And we're also seeing a change in behavior as more people are letting their guard down. So, they will continue to closely monitor these numbers. So here are some of the changes coming with the approved plan. Restaurant seating would be expanded up to 12 patrons to a table. That's going to change from the current limit of 6. And buffets would be allowed to return. I'm excited about that. Curbside delivery and carry-out operations along with expanded outdoor seating options would continue to be strongly encouraged. Now, the plan also proposes increasing occupancy to 80% for gyms, fitness studios, pools and spas, water parks, especially now that the weather is warming up here in Las Vegas, libraries and museums, retail stores, indoor malls, and similar establishments. Food sampling would now also be allowed at grocery stores and farmers markets. I'm also excited about that. I missed that at those big warehouse stores. I'm sure, Alan, as you know. Now, events with more than 250 attendees would still have to submit a preparedness and safety plan to the Clark County Recovery Enforcement Work Group. Large gatherings with less than 20,000 people could be approved at 3 feet social distancing with up to 80% capacity if, 1, the venue is outdoors, or if it's indoors, the area has to be well ventilated. And 2, 50% of the community has to have had first dose of a vaccination for COVID-19. Again, as I mentioned earlier, when 60% of the eligible community has been vaccinated, capacity at large gathering venues could increase to 100% with no social distancing. That's according to the plan. At that time, event organizers would no longer need to submit large gathering plans. But until then, all concerts, including live music, DJ, entertainment, sporting events, or other such events would have assigned seating That's include conventions and other similar gatherings with general admission. For places of worship, it has also increased capacity to 80% based on applicable fire code, but strict social distancing requirements will remain in effect. Now, for those of Nevadans, Las Vegas, here in Las Vegas, does this mean people can have family gatherings and parties? Nope. According to the plan, private social gatherings are restricted based on CDC guidance. In Las Vegas, Anna Cui, Eagle News, we live in interesting times. Back to you, Alan.
Anna, stomachs across the nation instantly perked up upon hearing that segment of your report about buffets reopening. As someone who also enjoys a buffet now and again, we kind of thought that because of the pandemic, buffets were a thing of the past. But now you're telling us Vegas is opening up again. But can you tell us if there'll be any differences?
Yes, Alan, that's one of the main reasons why a lot of people come here, right, for the buffet. Well, buffets will be permitted to operate. It will be presented in a buffet style, self-service, like it used to, but here are some of the changes. So each station will be supervised by an employee. They're saying that hand sanitizer is offered to the patrons prior to obtaining tableware. And then service utensils will be changed out every hour. Patrons and employees will continue to be encouraged to practice adequate social distancing as much as possible. Alan?
So it's not much of a sacrifice to make to be able to return to buffets, because I know plenty of people that would definitely follow those new guidelines in order to go back to eating altogether. And Anna, today is Earth Day.
Yes.
And so a little bit later on, we're going to be asking you how you help in your own way to reduce your carbon footprint. But I'm very proud to say that I'm known to recycle, but I specialize when it comes to recycling. And so I want to pick your brain in just one word. What do you think it is that I specialize in recycling?
I would hope plastic, Alan.
Plastic, great guess, and we'll find out how close you are to my answer. Anna, thank you so much for your report.
Thank you.
In New Jersey, Governor Phil Murphy announces the state transit's completion of its full roster of locomotive engineers. In Union Township, Bureau Chief Carla Valdez tells us more.
Thanks, Alan. Governor Murphy, along with the New Jersey Department of Transportation and New Jersey Transit, recognized the result of years of dedication to restoring the ranks of New Jersey Transit's locomotive engineers to a full roster. Here's Governor Murphy with some words. Let's take a look.
So we're here today because everyone who I just named, including yours truly, made a commitment to restoring NJ Transit to the place it needs to be and where we know it can be. New Jersey's commuters demand and deserve a safe, modern, and reliable rail network. And today we move ever closer to delivering on this promise. Safe, because under our administration and Diane and Kevin's leadership, NJ Transit completed the installation, the testing, and the certification of the federally mandated positive train control technology that had been left to languish. Modern, because this administration has undertaken the much-needed capital program to deliver new and more efficient locomotive and passenger cars to replace what had been derided by many as an aging and broken down prone fleet. And reliable, because we are investing in the critical positions we need to ensure on-time operations with fewer cancellations due to lack of available crew. In short, we are investing in you all. As the 9 of you graduate from your classroom training today, and with the presupposition that you will excel in your final check rides, and thanks to the tremendous training team, I want to give them a shout out, I have no doubt that you will join the ranks of New Jersey's rail engineers, and that number will grow to 393. For the first time in more than a decade, this organization will have a full roster of rail engineers.
New Jersey Transit's latest locomotive engineer training class is in the last stages of their training and will soon begin their final check rides in the upcoming weeks. And as for coronavirus stats and numbers, New Jersey reports of 2,895 new positive PCR tests, pushing the total to 868,541. Sadly, New Jersey is reporting 31 new confirmed deaths, pushing the total to 22,690 lives lost. In Union Township, New Jersey, Carlo Valdez, Eagle News, we live in interesting times. Back to you, Alan.
Well, more powerful than a locomotive is our Eagle News correspondent, Carlo Valdez. Thank you so much for that report. Now, here in California, the city of Los Angeles launches several initiatives to help boost the tourism industry after more than a year of being heavily impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic. In Glendale, Eagle News correspondent Abelle de Mesa tells us more about these programs.
Thank you, Alan. The city launches a stream of initiatives to assist and expand the tourism industry in Los Angeles, which has been heavily impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic. Los Angeles is back to attracting visitors and jobs to its bustling city again through collaborative efforts with the LA Tourism and Convention Board, the LA Tourism Marketing District, and the Hotel Association of Los Angeles. Mayor Eric Garcetti states, tourism and hospitality were decimated by the pandemic, and if we want LA's economy to speed into a lasting recovery, we need to get this industry back on its feet, workers back on the job, and visitors back in the doors of our hotels, businesses, and key attractions. Our city is a global destination, and as more people get vaccinated and more open, we will do everything possible to revitalize this sector and welcome people from across the country and around the world to Los Angeles once again. The Los Angeles mayor has announced a series of programs that will revitalize the local hospitality and tourism sector. They will boost the city's economy and bring numerous jobs for Angelenos. These initiatives include investing $5 million in the marketing campaign, the LA Tourism and Convention Board, establishing the Los Angeles Tourism Cabinet, and working with federal departments to increase tourism funding and dictate instructions for international visitations. Adam Burke, President and CEO of the Los Angeles Tourism and Convention Board, says, "We are thankful for Mayor Garcetti's leadership and ongoing support for our local travel and tourism community, and we are excited to have the opportunity to promote what makes LA one of the world's premier destinations." Historically, media campaigns promoting Los Angeles have generated a return on investment of greater than 50 to 1. With the city's $5 million investment, we will be able to launch LA's first ever national advertising effort, and we are confident that our recently launched Comeback Story campaign will yield incredible returns and drive economic recovery for our local business community. In Glendale, California, Abelle de Mesa, Eagle News. We live in interesting times. Back to you, Alan.
Abelle, how hard hit was the LA tourism and hospitality industry by the pandemic?
On the onset of the pandemic last year caused temporary closures of many businesses, including hotels. It was a domino effect as these closures resulted in great loss of jobs. Employment in hospitality and tourism sector by 46%, which is about a third of the jobs lost in Los Angeles County. The industry has been significantly affected by COVID-19. Alan?
Good to hear that tourism is bouncing back in LA. And as an Angeleno, what are some of the more well-known tourist attractions?
One of the more well-known attractions, especially the one that I could recommend, is definitely the Griffith Observatory. The actual building in the conservatory isn't open yet, but even without going inside, there are many hiking trails surrounding the area that you can get a good hiking, places in. There's also great views, so if you're the kind of person that really struggles to get to the top, the views that you see on the way and when you get there are very worth it and very motivational. And once the building actually opens, you can actually see and learn a lot about the planets around us, around our planet Earth. There's a giant telescope you can look into to see far and great distances, many intelligent people and employees there that can tell you all about what you need to know about the planets around us and even our own planet. So there's definitely a destination worth going to, and it is a popular destination, whether you want to learn more about the planets and, overall the world around us, or if you like a great hiking trail and just appreciate what we have here. Alan?
Well, speaking of planet Earth, Annabelle, it is Earth Day. I asked Anna a little bit earlier about what her one-word idea is for what it is that I specialize in. You can't say plastic. She already took it. So in one word, what do you think it is that I specialize when it comes to recycling?
Maybe soda cans?
Soda cans. Thank you so much. We're going to hear more from you later about how you also help the environment by lessening your carbon footprint. Thank you so much, Anne.
Thank you, Alan.
Up next, more updates from California. Eagle News America will return shortly.
The extended quarantines compelled us to continue doing things online. And for some of our children, and I'm sure a lot of adults out there was more time to spend on their favorite RPGs or role-playing video games. RPGs are presenting incredible universes with high fantasy kingdoms. We see knights and different worlds, all products of creativity and imagination. The good news is video gamers now have an option to play Filipino-designed games that place Philippine pop culture, history, and tradition in the gaming experience. Today, we will showcase the talents and skills of Filipinos in creating and developing game and mobile applications that incorporate the Filipino culture for both local and international audiences.
So I want sa mga kabataan na gawing passion yung gaming, not because na maging addictive, and also para bigyan ng goals sarili mo. Hindi yung enjoyment ang kailangan mo. Kailangan mo is to learn something. Use the gaming para magkaroon ka ng sariling goal.
Jo Marie Luistro, the president of Boom Brain Studio, will join us in this episode, Open for Business.
You're watching Eagle News America. I'm Alan Basoyahe in Los Angeles. In an effort to reinvest in industries that uplift the city, Los Angeles Mayor Eric Garcetti says this year's spending plan is the most progressive to date. Why? Eagle News correspondent Pro Rogacion has the answer.
Thank you, Alan. Mayor Eric Garcetti announces the proposed budget of the City of Los Angeles for the 2021-2022 fiscal year. The Los Angeles mayor states this budget is more than a financial document. It's a dynamic roadmap to a city built on justice and equity. Our budget heeds Angelenos' advocacy, activism, and aspirations to restore what we love best about Los Angeles and reinvest in our services, infrastructure, racial justice, and the largest ever single commitment to homelessness solution in our city. The released proposed city budget is described as the most progressive spending plan in LA's history. This 2021-2022 budget allocates $1 billion for racial and economic justice, almost $800 million for the homelessness problem, and about $150 million for COVID-19 recovery. Some of the other significant allotments are $75 million to support Los Angeles mobile outreach for vaccine equity, or the MOVE program, as well as for the recovery of the tourism and hospitality sector, and $33 million for the gang reduction and youth development program. Council member Paul Krikorian, the Budget and Finance Committee chair, says the mayor's proposed budget provides the funds necessary to address the city's continuing homeless crisis and the needs of various communities across the city. At the same time, it builds historic reserves to prepare us for further uncertainty and economic volatility during the pandemic, which is critical as we continue to grapple with its effect on local revenue and public health. In addition, this budget is reinforced with $777 million coming from the American Rescue Plan of the President, which will be divided as follows: $151 million for justice and equity programs, $281 million for homeless services, $282 million to bring back vital services, and $64 million for COVID-19 recovery. In North Hills, California, Pearl, Mariano, Rogacion, Eagle News. We live in interesting times. Back to you, Alan.
Pearl, how will the almost $800 million of the city's budget be broken down to combat the homelessness problem?
Alan, this is the city's most substantial spending to alleviate the homelessness crisis here in Los Angeles. It is actually $791 million, and it is broken down to, the first one is $362 million to fund 89 projects and 5,651 housing units under Proposition HHH, which produces supportive housing and units for the homeless. Almost $200 million of the $799 million for vital services to assist the homeless, like eviction defense and homeless prevention. Another $57 million to support 9 more Care Plus teams, which renders sanitation and outreach services in communities affected by the city's homelessness problem, and $43 million towards Project Roomkey. Homelessness is increasing in the city, as we all know, even more with the pandemic. So Los Angeles is being proactive in this situation to aggressively combat this crisis. Alan.
In connection with Annabelle's previous report about tourism, we understand that some of the monies will also be used for tourism. So, Pearl, as a mother of 2 young boys, what are some places that you've taken them in Los Angeles?
During the pandemic?
At any time, if we wanted to sort of show off Los Angeles to people visiting.
I would say the lights in LACMA, and then we've also already gone to the Griffith Observatory. That's a nice place too. We've also gone to the zoo, the LA Zoo. That's one of the place that the kids wants to visit again.
And we found it very interesting that in your segment, we actually saw shots of the Griffith Observatory. For anybody watching, they can tell just how very majestic the Griffith Observatory is. Pearl, you know, today's Earth Day, and like what I've asked your previous co-correspondents to, just in one word, try to figure out what it is that I specialize in when it comes to recycling. Plastic was already mentioned, soda cans, so maybe aluminum was already mentioned. Do you have any other ideas in just one word? You can't use plastic or soda cans.
Paper.
Paper, okay. That's a great guess, and I can't wait to see how close you are to it. We'll talk to you in a little bit. Pearl, thanks for speaking with us.
Thank you.
All right, beginning this weekend, fully vaccinated baseball fans in Los Angeles will be offered exclusive seating at the Dodgers Stadium. Eagle News correspondent Myleen joins us tonight with the details.
Thank you, Alan. With many entertainment, concert, and outdoor sporting events reopening its venue, doors to their fans, Dodger Stadium follows suit and is rolling out with a fully vaccinated fan section for their attendees. Starting this Saturday, April 24th game between the Los Angeles Dodgers versus the San Diego Padres, additional seating will be made available in the luge level for a fully vaccinated fan section. This will provide flexible seating options within the fan zone while still maintaining COVID-19 safety precautions throughout the stadium. Sections 166LG and 168LG of Dodger Stadium will seat the fully vaccinated patrons, which are those who have been administered the last dose of the COVID-19 vaccine, which are those who have been, and at least 2 weeks have passed from that last dose at the time, and children between 2 years old and 15 years of age who have showed proof of negative COVID-19 tests within 72 hours prior to the game. On the other hand, children less than 2 years old are exempted as they do not need to show proof of negative testing for the COVID-19. Attendees holding tickets for this fully vaccinated only fan section are required to access the stadium through the right field loge entrance only and show the required documents to prove that COVID-19 vaccination for those 16 years old and above, or a negative COVID-19 test for those between 2 years of age and 15 years old. In North Hills, California, Myleen Cusio, Eagle News, we live in interesting times. Back to you, Alan.
Myleen, what about face masks? Are they still going to be required to be worn in this fully vaccinated only fan section?
Actually, yes. Face masks or coverings are still required in these fully vaccinated only sections, with the exception of when the attendees are eating or drinking food items in their ticketed seats. The big difference, Alan, attendees or fans here will not need to physical or social distance. Everyone in these fully vaccinated only sections will be sitting right next to the other attendees. Alan?
Kind of hard to imagine someone trying to eat a Dodger dog with a face mask on. And speaking of, Myleen, I'm an Angelino, but I've never actually been to Dodger Stadium for a game. Can you talk about it? When was the last time you went, or what was your experience the last time?
The last time I went was over 10 years ago, actually. I had tickets free from work, so our tickets were, they were in the suite. So my experience was amazing because we had all-you-can-eat food, like a buffet style. And of course, we had the Dodger dogs and all-you-can-have drinks. And it was I don't even remember who won the game. I just remember sitting in the suite with friends, and it was fun. We didn't catch the ball.
Well, everything you mentioned is certainly worth the price of admission, and in your case, it was free, so you actually got more than what you paid for. Now, Myleen, today is Earth Day, and I'm going to pose the same question to you. I specialize when it comes to recycling, but one thing in particular, a few things have already been taken off the list here: plastic, soda cans or aluminum, and paper. They might have taken everything. Myleen, but do you have a guess in just one word what it is that I specialize in recycling?
Glass, like glass bottle?
Glass. All right. Well, I also want to see how close you are to the mark, and we're going to talk to you in just a little bit, Myleen. Thank you so much for the report.
You're welcome.
Up next, business news, Earth Day celebration ideas, and tonight's roundtable on how we can help protect the planet.
It's time to take one step further and face the impossible. Time to search the unknown and fight for the truth. Time to overcome boundaries and connect the world. It's time for DW News.
Hey there, Arnie Aquino here at Hatley Castle, one of the filming locations for the X-Men series. Don't forget to tune in to Digital Nest only on Net 25.
Welcome back. This is Eagle News America. I'm Alan Basayahe in Los Angeles. We have several stories from our business desk. U.S. markets move lower after a report on capital gains tax increase. Plus, today's earnings recap. Let's take a look.
Good evening. U.S. markets are closed. Here are your latest business headlines. Markets moved sharply lower this afternoon after a report from Bloomberg that President Biden is planning to announce a much higher than expected capital gains tax increase. The report expects the president to announce a 39.6% capital gains tax rate, which was touted by the president during his campaign. However, this is in addition to an existing tax on investment income that would bring the total federal tax rate for wealthy investors to 43.4%, which is nearly double the current federal tax rate. The capital gains tax is a tax on returns over $1 million by individuals and corporations when they sell their investment assets that have been held for more than a year. The president's goal of raising taxes on the wealthy is to fund his American Family Plan that he looks to announce next week, which will expand family and child care services, as well as improvements to the country's infrastructure and clean energy initiatives. No official comment has been released by the president regarding the Bloomberg report, but the president's press secretary did note that the tax rate is still being finalized. Turning to a quick earnings recap for today, AT&T reported higher than expected earnings based on a healthy growth of its wireless and fiber optic internet customer bases, as well as an increase in HBO subscription revenue from its Warner Media division. Chip manufacturer Intel also reported higher than expected net income and plans by their new CEO to expand production capabilities to take advantage of the chip shortage caused by the pandemic. Meanwhile, the Labor Department reported that the number of Americans applying for unemployment aid fell last week to 547,000, the lowest point since the beginning of the pandemic and a sign of continued economic strength. All major U.S. indices closed in the red following the Bloomberg report on the capital gains tax. Reporting from New York, Bobby Soriano, Eagle News. We live in interesting times.
Thanks for the updates, Bobby. April 22 is National Earth Day. This year is the 51st year since U.S. Senator Gaylord Nelson founded Earth Day back in 1970. EBC friend Susan Husk shares with us some ideas from earthday.org on how to celebrate today despite the circumstances we are in because of the pandemic. Take a look.
Thank you and howdy from the Lone Star State. This upcoming April 22nd will mark the 51st anniversary of Earth Day, which was established on April 22, 1970, to encourage people to take better care of their environment and promote the well-being of our planet. According to earthday.org, there are ways you can celebrate Earth Day wherever you are, even while staying at home and maintaining social distancing. Here are some ideas to inspire and show support for the people and our planet. Check your local government websites or social media to find out about Earth Day events in your area. Attend an online lecture to learn about environment issues like plastic pollution, quality of air and water, food waste, or climate change. Do a nature walk or explore your own backyard while broadcasting it live on social media. Learn about the impact your food choices make on the environment while cooking some healthy plant-based meals. Discover new ways to make your traditional family recipes using plant alternatives. Learn about food preservation techniques such as canning, pickling, and freeze-drying your fruits and vegetables to minimize your food waste. For those who love to create art, why not repurpose old materials around your house and make them into new items like jewelry, bags, or plant holders? Watch a documentary about the environment and research ways to protect your favorite animals. Count how many plastic containers, wraps, bottles, and bags you have in your home and find ways to recycle, repurpose, or reuse them to minimize waste. You can download the Global Earth Challenge app and collect data about air quality and plastic pollution in your community. Discover more ideas at earthday.org and make an impact in your community, even while staying at home. In Dallas, Texas, I'm Susan Husk, Eagle News. We live in interesting times. Back to you in the studios.
So, passing the proverbial torch from Susan to us here on the broadcast, let's pick up the discussion about taking care of our environment. Now, I know the whole team will agree with me, as well as our entire EBC family, that Earth Day should be celebrated not only on every 22nd day of April, it should be celebrated every day. Now, when we say every day, we mean exerting a conscious effort to protect the planet from pollution and damage. And doing so should be something we do collectively. Caring for the environment should be second nature to us. And yes, that pun was intended. We want to ask our team what simple things they do to lessen their carbon footprint and help protect what's left of our planet. So let's bring our EBC team back on. There they are. All right, so the question here tonight is what we do to lessen our carbon footprint, or maybe your ideas of how to help the environment. We start off things with Anna Kui. Take us away.
Hi, Alan. So for me, I'm trying to eat less meat, because they say meat is bad for the environment, right? Cooking meat. So I'm trying to eat less meat and eating more organic foods. In previous episodes, we talked about other ways, and I know I started unplugging devices when they're not in use, so I'm a lot better with that. I don't leave my phone plugged in all night anymore. And just unplugging, even other appliances that are not being used. And then Susan mentioned, plastic bags. That reminds me, I have a lot of those grocery plastic bags, so I need to be better with using reusable bags when I go grocery shopping. Alan?
Anna, does bacon count as meat?
Unfortunately, it does. And we used to have bacon, I would hate to admit, once every week. That was like our Sunday breakfast for the family, but I've cut it down now to just once a month. Little steps, baby steps.
Broken hearts across the nation after it has been verified through Anna Kui that bacon is meat, for those of you who are trying to protect our environment. Thanks, Anna. And let's now go to, I'm just going in order here, to Pearl. Pearl, what do you do to help protect the environment or lessen your carbon footprint?
The first thing that came into my mind is washing clothes or the laundry. So the rule here in the house is we need to make sure that it's a full load before we even run it. And we use, most of the time, we're not using the hot water. We use cold water, so that also helps. And also we line dry. Most of my clothes I line dry, or I hang it and I don't put it in the dryer, so it would last longer and it doesn't shrink. So that is that's what I do when we do laundry here at home. One more thing that I'm doing to what I've been doing or will do again this spring is I've been composting. So I have a little yard at the back. I plant tomatoes, which is my favorite. So I would have the whole summer with my tomatoes at the back. I don't buy my tomatoes during the summer because it's bearing fruits, and I use the compost to mix with my existing soil at the back. So that's how I've been doing it. So that's it.
Bacon goes really good with tomatoes. I just want to throw it out there, Pearl, in case you were wondering. But,
bacon and eggs.
Bacon and eggs, there you go. And wouldn't you agree, Pearl, that Los Angeles is one of those places that we can really benefit from having sun a lot of days of the year? Because you mentioned line drying. Isn't it great to live in a place where we can line dry because we have a lot of sun?
Yes, it really it is really beneficial to us, like especially when it's summer. That's an opportunity for us to go outside and also bring our laundry outside to dry.
So that was a Pro Agacion doing laundry and getting tomato stains out of her clothes. Let's move on to Myleen. Myleen, talk to us. What do you do to lessen your carbon footprint, or just what do you do to help protect and preserve our environment?
Well, I recycle plastic and bottles and paper, and I recycle shopping bags as well. The paper shopping bags and the plastic, and I have additional shopping bags that I buy, from the store as well. But from all those that I've mentioned, my big specialty is plastic. From the milk bottles to the margarine canister, anything that is plastic in the house. We have an area in the garage where we put our recyclables, and then once that box is filled, we have bins in the backyard that we fill up, and then every 2 weeks we take it to the recycling center. And another one that comes to my mind is the empty glass jars, like say from spaghetti sauce or peanut butter. I use those for oil, because we fry foods. Filipinos, I guess, like to fry. I like to fry, and so I use those jars to put my used oil in, and then I put in the blue recycling bins that the city takes.
I find it kind of interesting, Myleen, that you mentioned you specialize in plastic. It's almost as if you're trying to find out if I was going to agree with you, but we're not at my recycling portion yet. But thanks, Myleen, for talking to us about how you uphold or protect the environment. I want to move on to Annabelle. Annabelle, talk to us. What do you do for Earth Day?
Hi. The few things that really stick out to my mind is one, I use rags instead of paper towels for spills. That's usually, of course, important to me because I'm a very clumsy person and I spill anything liquid in my hands. So instead of going through years worth of paper towels, I have reusable rags that last longer and they're reusable, so I throw away less and use more. Another thing that I also do to be environmentally friendly is that I use BPA-free products instead of using styrofoam and plastic. Not only does that, of course, reduce the carbon footprint in the planet, but apparently when you use styrofoam, that it's a carcinogen. It has carcinogens in it. It makes you prone to cancer. And a lot of my friends got mad at me when every time I try to eat things from the styrofoam cup. So, saving the planet and, improving my health. And the last thing I also keep in mind is the scratch paper. Like my office always prints out papers and we always have, scratch paper left behind. So instead of just throwing away every single paper, I use some time to cut them up into little pieces and use them for notes.
Annabelle, I noticed you mentioned paper. Plastic was mentioned earlier. And I know what's burning in absolutely nobody's mind when we go back to what I recycle in. So hold on to your seats, folks. What I specialize in recycling in are jokes. I recycle jokes. And that joke I've said about 100 times. But today's not only Earth Day. Today's also a happy birthday. Together with our EBC and Eagle News America family, we want to wish our Washington, D.C. Bureau Chief, Ace Ramirez, a happy birthday. So happy birthday, Ace. And as always, at the end of every broadcast, we don't forget to recognize also the efforts of our healthcare workers, first responders, and essential workers by giving them a round of applause. Please join me. Thank you for being our modern day heroes. We appreciate you. And that is today's Eagle News America. Thanks for joining us. I'm Alan Balsoyahe. We live in interesting times.